Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Today is Tuesday, June 11th. It's now 6:30 p.m. and we're going to begin our meeting. This meeting is being held at the Harry Butters Selectmen's Chambers at Town Hall here in Norwood. It's also being broadcast by the Norwood Community Media for future broadcast. And also, just in terms of the agenda tonight, we have several appointments. We also have an executive session at the end of the meeting. And at that time, when we go into executive session, we will only come back into public session for the purpose of adjournment. So with that, as is our tradition, we'll open the meeting with a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silent reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So our first appointment is in just a couple of minutes at 6:35. In the interim, if the board is so willing, perhaps we could manage a couple of approvals. For example, item number 1, there is a warrant signature update, submitting notification of reviewed and approved warrant reports signed by the board's representatives. Could I have a motion?
So accept and file.
Mr. Plasko makes the motion. Mr. Lane seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0. Meeting approvals for the board. Submitting meeting minutes for April 23rd, 2024, May 7th, 2024, and May 13th, 2024. On the motion, on the agenda item, do I have a motion? By Ms. Grow makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Mr. Sad seconds. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0. So at this time, I think we are just about early enough for 6:35 to get our first group of appointment folks in here. I think our first appointment is 6:35 p.m. for the 4th of July committee. If the committee's there, they can come in and we'll talk about the 4th of July.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Another year.
Another year.
God.
Another 4th of July, huh? It's coming up fast, isn't it?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It always does.
Yeah.
Time just goes
Time
by.
doesn't slow down.
All right.
So
So,
hi.
good. So why don't we just start, if you folks can introduce yourself, and you can,
Okay.
and the table, the agenda is yours.
Okay. I'm Maria Henry, one of the coordinators.
Lou Harris?
Mike Rosen.
Mary Quintero. Arthur Coleman.
Welcome.
So this year, our July 4th parade, we're very excited once again. The theme this year is Independence Day the Norwood Way, because we do it our way and it's such a great celebration every year. Our Grand Marshal is Chief Brooks, so we're very excited about honoring him. And we have a very special T-shirt coming, which I'm not going to tell you about, but you're going to enjoy it. It's the chief. So I just wanted to go over the day. So at 1 o'clock is the Children's Bicycle and Dog Carriage Parade and Historical Character Parade. Mary and I have done that for about 30 years now. And that is my favorite one. That's kids come from 3 to 12 years old. They're dressed up in historical characters. They decorate their bikes, their tricycles, their dog carriages. They have a ball marching down the street with the Colonial Boys leading off. They get to the gazebo and everyone gets a prize, everyone gets a free T-shirt, and then the winners get to be in the big parade at night. And it's just, if you haven't been there, it's just to be on Washington Street and see them all coming down. They're so excited to be in the middle of the road. Everyone's looking at them. So that's at 1 o'clock. 2 o'clock, there's going to be Norwood Reed's Frederick Douglass together. That's still going on at the old parish cemetery. At 2:30, we're going to have the Carillon concert. And then at 5 o'clock is the Firecracker 5K road race. So that's going on. We got this year, the problem is we got a slow start. The parade didn't get advertised in time. Everything went late with it. So I'm really pushing for everyone because some people thought we weren't having it. So I just want to get the word out there that we are having the 5K road race. We have these all over town. You can pre-register at runsignup.com, or you can come and register the day of the parade. We have new t-shirts this year. Like some of the runners wanted those wicking t-shirts, so we're getting the nicer t-shirts for them. So we're really hoping that this takes off because we were slow in getting it going. So I really want to get it out there. The parade is on, the road race is on, and come register. And this dog carriage, this is another banner. This is going all over town. It's going home to all the kids at school. And this tells you that for the dog carriage parade, there's no need to sign up. You just show up at the First Congregational Church, about 1:15. The kids get their T-shirt, they get a number, they line up, and we go. So, and then at 5:30 is the Lou will take over.
About 5:30. We wait until the last runner of the road race is basically past where the hospital used to be. That way we don't have the fire trucks running over the runners. That's usually a bad choice because then the fire truck has to stop and pick them up. So we don't want that to happen. We release the fire trucks then, and the rest of the parade will commence shortly behind that. It's going to be an interesting year this year because of the construction at the junior high, but we're figuring out how to work with that, and hopefully everything goes off smoothly. Because we're going to be a little bit more spread out this year for our staging, I'm still looking for additional volunteers. So if, and Mike will have the email address if any of the public would like to help and volunteer this year. We'll take your information, and if you're able-bodied and able to help us with it, that would be wonderful. But once we reach Brookside, everything will be in gear and headed north, and give it a best shot. It should be a great parade as always, and I think who's the group that's at the very end? The new big band, is that
Sunrise.
The Sunrisers from Long Island, right?
Yeah, so we're there.
Yeah, so they're going to be our big band at the end. So that should be a beautiful show, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we do have a couple of new bands this year, and like Lou said, Sunrise's Drum Corps of New York. They were here years ago, but they're about 80 people, marchers, so that's going to be a good one. And then the 7th Regiment is another large group. So they'll be there, and we just have we have our Cyclone Murrays, we have everyone's back, the Colonial Boys, Colonial Pipers. We have
Cyclone Murrays?
Yep, the Lion Dancers, Uncle Sam's Jazz Band, the Hot Tamales, everything. So anyway, Martha wanted to say something.
Well, I was just gonna say, I have it from a little different perspective. I usually ride the last float when the parade is over and see how everything went. And it really gives you a thrill to start right at the very beginning of the town, almost the North Walpole line. And every house has, maybe a porch. The whole family is sitting there, maybe Nana's out there with the wheelchair, and the kids are, maybe in the yard, the little fenced-in yard. But what a wonderful way to be able to celebrate the 4th of July at home, not have to go anywhere, no expense. And they're out there so enthusiastic, waving the flags, and if we wave a flag to them, then they just beam. So we, all the way down, no matter which category you might be going, which section in Norwood, the sidewalks are lined with people in homes, and we're so happy that we can do this for the town of Norwood.
Yep. Did you want to mention the volunteer
Sure.
stuff?
So for everybody, for Lou mentioned before, if you're interested in volunteering, the email address to email is managers@norwoodma.gov. Managers@norwoodma.gov. That goes to a few of us in the manager's office staff. We're definitely open for any volunteers who would like to work with us on July 4th this year. And we appreciate you thinking of doing that. Thank you.
So that's basically it, and as always, we're looking for youth groups in the town of Norwood, anybody, dance companies, gymnastics, we're looking for baseball, softball, any team, if they want to be part of the parade, just give us a call and we'll send you out a contract, and it's a fun day, so we're hoping to get a lot of people there. But that's it,
Great. Well, thank you.
yeah.
Questions, comments from the board? Mr. Sapp?
I want to thank you once again for doing the parade again this year, because I did it for a few years and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And congratulations, it'll be a lot of fun. If it's really, really hot, maybe the manager can ask the fire department, to open up the spigots and go through the, cool down the roads for the marches.
That water ain't free.
We used to do that.
Let's just hope it doesn't rain.
I hope so. Keep up the great work, everybody. Martha, I love the suit. Sweater, the all-American sweater and everything. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Ms. Grove?
I just also wanted to add thanks. This is one of my favorite events of the year. Honestly, I really look forward to it. I really enjoy participating in, multiple groups over the years, and it's just a lot of fun. And it's also one of the things when I sometimes have family in town, and I'll take them there, and they're always like, wow, like they really go all out here in Norwood. I don't see this like where we are. So I just wanted to really commend you on all the work you do, because it really shows, and people notice even from far beyond the Commonwealth. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, I could say, Maria, when you walked through the door, you said another year. And all I can say is another thank you to you people for doing what you do for the town. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lane?
Yep, I'll just echo the sentiments of my colleagues, and thank you for all the work that you do. I know it's sometimes probably a thankless job, so we appreciate it greatly. This was, I think when I first moved here, this was the first event that I went to in town, and I just, like Ms. Grove was saying, it was so cool and such a big event, so we really appreciate it, and thank you. And thanks, Mike.
Sure. I would like to thank the committee as well, and a great selection for the Grand Marshal. My question would be, is Chief Brooks going to walk the parade like he usually does, or put him in a vehicle?
He's in a vehicle.
Oh, that would be a sight.
Because he usually gets ahead of everyone.
He gets to be
Yeah.
in a convertible this time.
Yes,
Such a
Mr. Lane
fast
is right.
pace.
If you have having marched behind the police chief in past parades, you do lose your breath. So I'm glad he's in a vehicle. It will pace the parade much more effectively. In addition to outreach for volunteers, is the committee still in need of additional funding? And if so, is there still opportunity for folks to donate to the committee if that's
Yeah, I mean, we're always in need, because we have to fulfill the budget this year and start next
Yeah.
year with some money. So I have to say, the community has been very generous this year. I can't thank everybody enough. I mean, we're getting checks from, households, $5, $10, $20 checks, they add up. So they've really, come through, and I'm shocked at how kind everyone's been.
Yeah.
So thank you to everyone who has contributed, and we always can use the money. These bands, it's crazy. One band we had to get rid of, they were charging $15,000.
Whoa.
And they wanted to go up to 20,000, so we told them we're not doing it.
right?
So, I mean, everyone thinks there's a lot of money out there, and then even the sunrises, that's $6,500. But he says, we're coming from New York. He says, do you know what the buses cost now just to get us there?
Yep.
And he said, I'm keeping it as low as I could, and that being $6,500. So when you add up what that parade is, we really need the money.
Right.
But I appreciate the town is so generous. You guys raise the budget for us, and we appreciate that. So it's working out.
Town is generous, but it always helps to supplement with fundraising
Absolutely.
from residents and other folks, which is great. If
Yeah.
anyone wishes to support financially, Mike, is it the Town of Norwood / 4th of July Committee?
Yes, we do have on our website, we have a 4th of July committee page. Even if you send a check in to the town hall and it's marked 4th of July donations, we make sure that it gets to the right place.
Great.
Yeah, and everyone got a form in their electric bill.
Electric bill,
Yeah,
okay.
too. So, yeah, we can always use the help, but thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you again for all your work. We're really looking forward to it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's always easy to remember the date of the parade, too.
Yeah. Something about 4th of July.
Let's see, so at this point, we have first appointment at 7 PM. So we do have some time to consider some of the new business items. I'll start with item 4.1, Verizon Utility Agreement for discussion and signature of the board. Mr. Mizuko, was there anything in particular that we need to be aware of regarding this, this request from Verizon?
No, Mr. Chairman, this is related to the middle school project. Verizon would like an easement, as they normally do, for all their equipment on a property. Unfortunately, only town meeting can grant an easement. They want to make sure there's not a delay in the project. What the selectmen can grant is a license of the use of the space, and Verizon is okay with that until such time as we can have a town meeting and give them a proper easement.
We don't need a school committee at all?
It comes to the selectmen because it's still a grant of utility property.
So what do you want us to vote to approve and authorize?
Yes, please.
I noticed the signature page, as far as printing copy, seems to be a little messed up.
We can,
Gonna get a new one, or can we authorize the chairman to sign, or the manager, and change the, is this their form?
yes, you can change the signature form to put whatever you'd like on there.
What's easier?
Authorized,
saying-
sorry.
Actually, I think your printed version, Bill, maybe, I'm not seeing that. Yeah.
These are for the notaries. There's a separate one for each notary.
You can approve and authorize the manager to sign. Again, this is gonna come back as an agreement. It's our,
So if we just do
On the second
one-
page of paragraph.
it's our typical sort of non-exclusive license of town property, which is what we do where we say you're using it, but the
I
selectmen
don't
can,
wanna
you
suggest
know,
something different and mess it up, but I'm trying to make it easier too.
you can authorize the manager to sign, and Verizon will be good with that.
That work for you?
So moved.
Yes, sir.
We have a second on Mr. Plasko's? Yes. Ms. Grove seconds. All in favor of Mr. Plasko's motion? Please say aye. All opposed? 5-0 in favor. Thank you. Next item, 4.2. This is a town common, Central Street use. Norwood Recreation Department submitting request to use the picnic tables on Central Street for a paint night with Latanya on Monday, July 29th, 2024, from 6 p.m. until 7 p.m. with a rain date of Monday, August the 5th, 2024. Approximately 20 attendees are expected. Pleasure of the committee, of the board. Motion by Ms. Grove to approve. Do I have a second? Mr. Sad. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0. Sidewalk sale, 4.3. Sidewalk sale, Women's Community Committee Incorporated, submitting a request to hold a sidewalk sale at the Women's Community Committee Thrift Shop on Saturday, June 15th, 2024, from 9:30 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. The intent is to use the Ula Avenue side of the building and to set up a few tables for a small clothing rack.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Sad makes the motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Lane seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. 4.4, DAV park use, Trinity Community Church request. They are submitting a request to use the Disabled Veterans Park for a summer kickoff youth event on Sunday, July 14th, 2024, from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. There will be games, tables for snacks, and music. Approximately 25 to 50 attendees are expected. Pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion to approve.
And do I have a second? Ms. Grove seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. 4.5, also a Trinity Community Church request for the DAV Park, Disabled Veterans Park use, submitting a request to use the Disabled Veterans Park for a Vacation Bible School, July 15 through July 18, 2024, from 8:30 a.m. until 4 p.m. There will be 2 10-foot tents, a few tables, games, supplies, and a small speaker for music for the morning program, with 60 to 80 attendees expected. The afternoon from 12 p.m. until 4 p.m. will be for games only, with about 10 to 15 attendees expected. Pleasure of the board. Mr. Lane?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And do I have a second? Mr. Sad? All in favor of Mr. Lane's motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous? 5-0. Very well. And we'll get a few more in before the 7 o'clock. Item 4.6, Pleasant Park use. This is a resident request, submitting a request to use a small area of Pleasant Park, Pleasant Street and Lenox Street, for a birthday party on Saturday, June the 22nd, 2024, from 2 p.m. until 4 p.m. This would be a picnic style with a folding table for food and a small charcoal grill. Approximately 15 to 20 guests are expected. Pleasure of the board. Yes, Mr. Blasco.
Are we require insurance? And I'm a little concerned about a grill and the liability.
So we typically have requested an insurance certificate. Usually somebody can get it through their homeowner's insurance. A small charcoal grill for a small event should not be a problem. When we've had these requests for sort of birthday parties in the parks, we usually send a letter reminding them that alcohol is not allowed under any circumstances, sold, bought, brought in, free or otherwise. We would get an insurance certificate from them if they're able to. They're also available relatively cheap from different insurance companies. If the event is as indicated with 15 to 20 guests, it should not be a problem.
Yeah, I agree that this small party, but we're getting back to the thing we keep talking about and never getting a resolution to. People putting in requests to use the public lands, which ones should be used for what purposes? And we still should be having some recommendations come back before these keep popping up.
I think it's,
you know, if somebody wants, for an example, if somebody wants this, but we haven't found this to be a proper place, they can use Father Max or no place, you know, whatever we decide.
Sure.
As a policy, but I just think we need to get a handle on it instead of just letting these keep pop up on their own. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. With that, do I have a motion on the 4.6 Pleasant Park use?
Motion to approve.
Ms. Grow makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Mr. Lane? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. And with a notation from Mr. Plasko that, that we should start working on a, for lack of a better word, a policy regarding park usage, if I hear you right, if I heard you right. This is 4.7. Next is 4.7. It's a one-day liquor permit, Hometown Arcade. Submitting a request for a one-day liquor permit for Beth Israel Leahy Health Pharmacy outing at Hometown Arcade, located at 61 Endicott Street on Friday, July 12, 2024, from 6 p.m. until 11 p.m., with approximately 50 guests expected. Pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Mr. Plasko. On the motion, all in favor?
Okay.
All opposed? Unanimous. We'll get a few more in. Next is 4.8. This is a one-day liquor permit for Castle Island. Submitting a request for a one-day liquor permit for a beer garden at the Juneteenth celebration on a town common on Saturday, June 15th, 2024, from 12:30 p.m. until 3:30 p.m. with approximately 100 guests expected. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Motioned and seconded. On the motion, anyone?
So they're gonna set up where they did during the
Yeah.
summer.
It's
Yeah.
the same setup that they've had at the end of Central Street.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. So they have experience with that location.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments? So we'll go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. 4.9, St. Gabriel's Chapel, window repair. Submitting a request from Mark Ryan, Director of Public Works, to reglaze the chapel windows at a cost of $30,000, which will be dispersed from the Anna Day Fund. On the motion, do I have a, excuse me, pleasure of the board?
Question?
Yes, Mr.
Can the
Plasko?
manager or somebody fill us in why this is needed after the work we just did on the job? Weren't the windows done at that time?
They were, the windows were leaking, the work was only warranted for a year at that time.
I'm sorry,
The work was only warranted for a year at the time, it's been more than a year, and the windows unfortunately are leaking.
so it's workmanship installation?
As a non-professional opinion, I would say yes.
It's not the windows, not a warranty on the windows, it's the workmanship?
Correct, yes. The sealing, seals.
And how, I'm sorry, Mr. Lane, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Rizzo, so is this fund, has it been growing, or has this money been there? I mean, just a little, I hadn't heard of it before.
Sure, it was established, the board actually drew down funds from it maybe 3 or 4 years ago for a similar project. It was established at around the time the town took over the chapel for repairs and necessary work on the chapel.
And has it been growing, or is it just,
At a minimal rate of interest. The interest accumulates in the fund.
and is this like the first real expenditure from the?
No, 3 or 4 years ago, there was money taken out of it for something, I don't recall what. Wasn't used during the chapel renovation, that was $1.4 million.
Yeah.
So it was just, I think at the time, it was probably around $30,000, and it was just, that's not gonna get anywhere.
Just thinking if there are future issues with this, and we don't have money, just,
If it's a large issue, we're gonna be looking for somewhere else. The fund has just never had enough money to provide for substantial repairs to the facility. This is about the biggest or the most we could hope for. If this repair was a $100,000 repair, we wouldn't even be looking at it. It would be capital outlay or
Right.
CPA.
okay.
Mr. Sad?
I guess for a lot of caulking, that's a lot of money for a lot of caulking, but my question is, I don't know what company did the work, but are they on a bad listed note right now?
I probably would not wanna hire them again,
Okay, just so we don't hire them again.
even though they've met their legal obligations under
I
said
know,
contract.
Yeah.
Yes, because it was probably a $1.5 million CPC expense, only back to maybe, I think it was about that cost.
It was 1.4 million, sorry, it was a mix of
1.4?
CPC and general fund.
General
I
fund.
think we did $900,000 from the general fund, and
Sounds
then we
right.
had to come back with 400 and some
Right,
odd thousand
yes.
from CPC. I think it actually might have been our first CPC expenditure.
Yeah, it was 2017, so it's
Yeah, this is
less
fairly
than 8
recent.
years ago.
I mean, it's a historic structure in a sense. It's an older structure. It's a non-traditional, standard structure. The stained glass was one of the main things we wanted to restore. There was some other work, talk at the time about installing a different air system that never ended up happening. Could this have been included in it? I suppose, but windows ain't what they used to be. I think we saw that even with this building in the 2002 renovation of the windows, that they lasted at best a decade.
Well, this, excuse me, this says reglaze. Are they replacing windows?
There's no replacing of windows. There's, the purpose of the repair is to stop the water that's coming in.
You gonna do it?
I'll do it for $2,000. My question is, we should probably look into, Mr. Manager, the caulking, the good stuff has a 50-year warranty. So I don't know what Mark can do about that, but, yeah, it just seems like a lot of glazing and caulking for a bunch of windows.
They are stained glass, I mean, it is,
No, I know, but it's just for the caulking part of it that's breaking down, but some of it is guaranteed for 50 years or 30 years, so might be worth looking at the manufacturer and hitting them.
we could certainly look into that.
Can maybe advise Mr. Ryan to explore that,
Yeah.
that option. Did I ask for a motion? Have I asked
I
for a
don't think you
motion?
have yet.
I did. So we had a motion, it was seconded.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Lane?
No.
I'm sorry. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. All right. So at this point, we have, it is 7 PM. We can return to our appointment agenda. 3.2, this is a public hearing, Class 1 dealer's license, AM Boston Ventures, Lotus of Boston. Before we begin the hearing, I'll ask Ms. Woodward to please read the public notice.
Notice is hereby given under Mass General Law, Chapter 140, and amendments thereto, that AM Boston Ventures Incorporated, DBA Lotus of Boston, Manager of Record Michael Argeros, has submitted an application for a new Class 1 auto dealer's license, to be used at 981 Boston Providence Highway for the sale of new vehicles. Public hearing on this application will be held on Tuesday, June 11th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the Harry B. Butters Selectmen's Chambers, Room 34, Norwood Town Hall.
Good evening, Mr. Hearn. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, David Hearn Jr. of Gellerman and Cabral on behalf of AM Boston Ventures, the applicant. With me is Michael Ageros, who came straight from work, so he didn't have a chance to go home and dress up for the meeting. But Mr. Ageros is the principal of the proposed dealership, as well as already the principal of Cadillac of Norwood and the Aston Martin dealership. What is before you is a request for Class 1 license for the location of a Lotus automobile dealership at 981 Boston Providence Turnpike. That is the site of, for many years, it was the site of the direct hire operation. And Mr. Ageros' operations have the lease of that property. At one point, we were going to put the Aston Martin dealership there. It moved over to a building that was available in Westwood. We proposed to put the Lotus dealership at this location. It's set up with a small showroom. It has auto repair facilities within it. It's convenient for folks, and he's been in this business for a number of years. He has, I think, a good track record as an automobile dealer, has the staff, has the mechanics, has everything that's needed. But this is a brand that he'd like to bring to Norwood, and we would ask that you approve it. I think you'll find that if you look at the statute, he has the character and the ability to conduct the business. This particular company, this is a full-time operation. This is not some part-time automobile dealership. The location is suitable, and I think everything else is suitable under the statute and under the concerns you folks would have. We're happy to take any questions, and thank you for your time tonight.
Questions from the board? Mr. Sad.
You own Norwood Cadillac?
I do.
I love the grass around there. It's so beautiful, like Fenway Park. There was a little grass down there around that place. We know DirecTV's right on the other side of South Norwood, so good luck, and hopefully it'll look just like Norwood Cadillac.
Thank you very much.
Anything else? Mr. Plasko?
Thank you. Is this now gonna be just the one dealership?
Right.
It's not gonna be shared?
No, the Aston Martin sales dealership went over to Westwood.
Westwood.
Yeah, on that
We
stretch.
can hold that against you now.
Well, we're keeping some of the servicing local.
Thank you. And it's gonna be, I noticed some emails, it's gonna be in compliance with the special permit.
That's right, the special
And
permit.
Not gonna be any gas storage and car washing and things like that's gonna be restricted just to your own vehicles?
That's right, that's right. That, the special permit relief that was granted a year or so ago continues, runs with the property.
Right.
And I understand, I saw Mr. Pelletier's email confirming that it does run with the property and the proposed use fits within that. So we're grateful for that.
Thank you.
Yes, that Mr. Plasko's comment reflected what I was going to say, and I do notice in the application you've submitted information from both Mr. Pelletier and Ms. Dixon regarding the usage, so thank you very much. So at this point, this is a public hearing. If there's no more comments from the board, I will open the forum to anyone who wants to make a public comment on the Class 1 dealership license, AM Boston Ventures, Lotus of Boston. Is there any member of the community wishing to speak before the board before we render our next step? Hearing none.
Motion to close the hearing.
A motion to close the hearing, seconded by Ms. Grow. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0 to close the hearing. Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Mr. Plasko makes the motion. Ms. Grow is seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Coming in. Keep that grass green.
Keep it green. think Tom Brady had the first one in New England, didn't he? Cashed in mine.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody's phone is on their chair there.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
no problem.
We want to make sure you get the Tom Brady celebration tomorrow.
With my phone.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you.
We have, our next appointment is at 7:15. It is now 7:06, so I suggest we return to the agenda and continue our new business items. We are now at item 4.10.
Yes.
Thank you. This is Economic Development Committee reappointment. This is submitting a request to reappoint Stephen Costello to the Norwood Economic Development Committee for a 3-year term that will expire in April 2027.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, made by Mr. Plasko, seconded by Mr. Sad. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Costello. He's certainly appeared before us many times, and he does a fine job on the committee, and particularly working with you, Mr. Plasko.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Slater as well. Item 4.11, Norwood Conservation Committee appointments for ratification of the board. This is submitting a request to appoint Kalamar Mustafa Widberg and,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes?
Sorry if I could interrupt. There's just an error on the agenda, it's my fault.
Mm-hmm.
There's one appointment, it's Mr. Anil Prasad. There was some confusion about how many we'd be appointing.
Okay. For ratification of the board, submitting the request to appoint Anil Prasad to the Conservation Commission for 3-year terms that will expire in June of 2027. Anything on the request, Mr. Plasko?
Well, I mean, Mr. Plasko may have some opinions on it. If I certainly don't have any opinion other than the Conservation Commission has requested to go down to 5 members. This will bring them to 5 full members. They've been at 7 for a while. They're sort of our last statutory board hanging out there at 7 members.
Right. Could you remind us who resigned recently that created the vacancy?
Peter Bamber and
Mr.
John
Bamber.
Gear. And there was an additional vacancy, but that's what dropped us down to 4. And we've had the conversation over the last couple of years with Conscom. Do we want to go to 5? Do we want to stay at 7? And it's always been, if we have enough interest, we'll be there. Now that the board has said that they're ready to go down to 5 to make it a little bit easier for them to manage.
Yeah.
Do you think we should be the ones to set what that number is?
I think so. Should we take that into consideration for a future meeting?
Sure.
Well, the challenge is the board doesn't appoint the members. So I guess it's a question as to who actually would make that decision.
We confirm the appointment.
Correct.
You make the appointment, we confirm it.
Correct, which just
Who
incidentally
sets-
is not
who set-
actually
who
written
sets the
anywhere. Neither of those are written anywhere, so we're just going on past practice.
Commonwealth of Massachusetts strikes again.
To be clear, they're not set anywhere in Norwood. Other towns have it in a bylaw. This is just
Right,
a
we don't have a particular
longstanding,
bylaw, just follow the law.
yeah, longstanding past practice.
Very well. I would like to also just publicly, just at this point, Mr. Gear and Mr. Bamber have been long-term members of the Conservation Committee, and I think on behalf of the town of Norwood, we really thank them for their long service to the Conservation Commission. So at this point, what's before us is the appointment of Anil Prasad. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to support,
Appoint.
appoint.
To appoint, yeah. Ms. Gross seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0. We have 5 minutes. All right, so we have item 4.12, Zoning Board of Appeals. So at your desk, folks, are 2 pieces of information that I'm sorry I was unable to get onto into the diligent agenda. So we have 2 associate members who have indicated an interest in serving on the ZBA. This is the result of Mary Kate Daly's recent resignation from the ZBA. 2 associate members have indicated interest. Before you, at your table, you have a letter of interest from member Joanne Powell, and also a letter of interest, an email of interest from associate member Matt O'Neill. Just for our discussion, how does the board want to proceed with the two appointments? Do we wish to render a decision this evening for discussion, or do we wish to perhaps have a more formal process and meet with each individual?
Didn't we discuss at the last meeting that we'd find out if any of the associate members were interested in the permanent position, and if there's more than one, have them in tonight
Well,
or
I
sometime in the future?
These are both the associate members who are interested.
The chair and Ms. Dixon did reach out to the associate members in regards to submitting their interest to
Right, to be in the
her.
permanent.
Right, and so these are the two that responded.
Yeah, so I thought then we were gonna have them in.
I'm not sure if that was ever
Right.
decided in the board. You certainly could, both are interested. I think you've had them both in for their alternate appointments. Do you want to bring them in again? It's really up to you. If you don't make a decision tonight, I'd strongly recommend we make one at the second June meeting, just so we don't go longer with the position being unfilled. But you could have them in then and then make a decision at that meeting.
Yes, I understand that there's some difficulty presented with the vacancy that the ZBA is needing to bring associates in to constitute a quorum. What would be the pleasure of the board? Do people feel that, Ms. Groen?
One question I have is, in some cases, when we are reviewing people for appointments, there might be someone that, might be familiar with the community, but we haven't really spoken with them about that topic. In this case, do we feel like we may have gained familiarity with each of them from prior engagements on this topic? Do we feel like we're going to gain new information by having them in this time? I generally like having people in for these. It gives us the ability to kind of review sort of their skill sets and them to present, what they think they can do. But if we feel like we've kind of gotten a few rounds of that already out of these two particular ones, then maybe we don't need to this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both individuals have been sat before us before to be appointed as associate members, and both have been active in their associate member status from the ZBA today. So I'll defer to the will of the board if there's a desire for the two members to come in next week to refamiliarize our next meeting to refamiliarize us. I wouldn't have an issue with that.
I don't think we have a time problem with getting a quorum, because that's why we have associate members, and if we have two saying they're willing to serve full-time, then they should be available to be called in, and there shouldn't be any issues holding their meetings in the meantime.
So is
Is the desire of the board to ask each individual to come in on our June 25th meeting and just give us some background on their actions or their contributions to the ZBA as associates, and to restate their desire to be appointed to the full ZBA membership?
I would like a kind of a refresher. We've met with them, as was pointed out, and when we appointed them to be associate members. But now that we're working full-time, how have they contributed thus far as an associate member? What's their thoughts today? Any different than when they were appointed? And, I don't watch every zoning board meeting, so, I don't know if they've attended, haven't attended.
Yes.
If they've been called and not shown up, that would be a negative. If they've been called and show up all the time, that'd be a positive. I guess I'd like some statistics, some information.
Yeah, I guess there's a body of work that we can judge them on. I think it's a good problem to have, Mr. Chairman, that they're both interested in being, so I think regardless of who we go with, I think it's a good outcome. I think we would, if we had them in at the next meeting, we would probably also want to vote at the next meeting.
Yes,
right?
absolutely, because, it's just, we don't want to prolong the vacancy. So, Mr. Mizuko, if you could contact Ms. Dixon and just have someone make an outreach to both candidates, and we'll put them on early in the agenda for our June 25th meeting, and then for appointment and vote on the 25th.
May I ask an additional question? Does this now mean that there's a call for a new associate member if someone is being appointed to the full-time membership?
I think we can ask Ms. Dixon as to if one if one of these folks is appointed, maybe we should get an update in terms of how many
What the need
associates are
is, yeah.
there.
Okay.
Well, that will leave 4. And I think the bylaw is for 5. 5 regular members, 5 associates. So we should at least tell people, if
Yeah.
you're interested in
Yeah.
applying,
Right.
get an application in.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll check the talent bank too.
great.
Okay.
All
That's
right.
good.
So that's our action for the June 25th meeting. Thank you. We are now just past 7:15. We will now open up, let's see, I'm sorry, go back to our appointments. We have 7:15, a public hearing, VIF, volatile inflammable fluids, Eastern Propane. Notice, and this is a public hearing, so notice will be read by the clerk, and then we'll commence the meeting. Ms. Woodward, please.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Norwood will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, June 11th, 2024, at 7:15 p.m. in Room 34, Selectmen's Chambers, Norwood Town Hall, on application of Eastern Propane for storage of up to 6,000 gallons of propane 2.1 to be stored at 1315 Washington Street, Norwood, as shown in plans on file with the town clerk, Room 32, Norwood Municipal Building, and available for inspection.
Welcome. Welcome. So if you don't mind, if you could just introduce yourself, and then we'll hold the public hearing.
Good evening. My name is Darren Germain. I am the commercial sales manager for Eastern Propane in Massachusetts. We are applying for a license for 6 1,000-gallon tanks for W.T. Rich at the Coakley School for temporary heat for 2024-2025. Installations will be sometime in November, and removal will be sometime in April or May.
I also notice in attendance is Mr. Slater, the chair of the Middle School Building Committee. Mr. Slater, you're welcome to sit here, and I know that
Okay, thank you.
your role as chair, your insights and data will be important as well.
Thank you.
So with that, would you tell us a little bit about the storage plan and so forth for
Yep, so I
site?
met with the fire prevention team. We reviewed I don't know if you have this document or not, okay? So we're looking at putting 3 heaters. Each heater would be roughly around 2 million BTUs. Therefore, required to run those would be 2 1,000s on each heater. We have spaced them out. So they are in conjunction with NFP 58 and 54 and CMR 527. Therefore, the review with the fire department, they've agreed, everything looks good. I will say this past winter, we did do temporary heat over there. We did have 2 1,000s. Again, same thing, in November, out by April or May. Hopefully winter will show up this year.
Well, hopefully not.
Yeah.
Questions from the board?
Thank you.
Mr. Sad.
Being in South Norwood and living in that area, direct area, there's a lot of concern about these tanks. And I know some of the residents are here, but are you gonna put a fence around this tank, or is it in the ground or above the ground?
Yeah, so part of the CMR is to make sure that there's crash protection around all the tanks. As far as fencing goes, that we would take, we would talk with the fire department. If they want some type of fencing around the tanks, that's what we would do. Or actually, W.T. Rich would be responsible for that, but that could be part of the licensing.
Other questions? Have you done this kind of work for other construction projects?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did, Town of Randolph, we had 10 1,000s. So it's,
We had this last year.
what's that?
Did you say we had this past winter?
Yes, we had, they were doing concrete pouring over the winter, so we had 2 1,000s there with a 3.5 million BTU heater. And they did that just to,
That's the noise I heard, okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Slater, if you don't mind, as in your role as the chair of the committee, Mr. Germain has described sort of the security of the tanks. Could you speak to just how the site is protected at this point in time by W.T. Rich as a construction site with fencing and security and things such as that?
Well, I mean, the site is fenced off. You know, there's several entrances for personnel as well as for equipment. Those entrances are monitored on on a consistent basis. So the site, you know, again, is protected, you know, we feel from, whatever, you know, that's consistent with the fire department and the concerns of the building inspector.
Thank you. Mr. Lane?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you could talk a little bit about, you said you've done this with other school projects.
Yes.
Have they been similar in the sense that the new school was built adjacent to the existing school, and maybe if there's any, I'm just thinking about when the existing Coakley is demolished, demoed, you know, the potential for something, you know, I don't know, like some kind of accident. I just want, if you could talk to that.
Yeah,
experience.
sure. So on the Randolph school that we had done, or Stoughton or Randolph, whichever one it was, I can't remember exactly. We had 10 1,000-gallon tanks. Right behind it was the existing school. That stayed up. So we, again, we had 10 1,000-gallon tanks strategically placed around the building within code. Everything was crash protected. There was fencing around just the whole entire project itself. It was locked in all at night. And that's pretty much it.
And the timeline, thank you for the answer. The timeline you had mentioned for these being active?
Yeah, somewhere around November. Again, it depends on when it gets cold.
Yeah.
They try to keep the temperature warm enough inside to do all the fire coating, interior work, rough plumbing. And then that will stay like that until either they're done with it or it will be out usually by April or May.
When April or May comes, then they're removed and the barriers are removed as well?
Everything is removed, that's correct. These are above ground tanks, so they will be drained down all the way. That's one of the parts of our contract is prior to removal, the tanks have to be completely down to 5%. So.
And, sorry.
Go, Mr. Go ahead.
And then as far as the timeline of the middle school build, would we be doing this again the following year, or
No,
would we, because
they should have permanent heat at that point.
right? Okay.
Any other comments, questions from the board? Seeing none, this is a public hearing, and at this point, I will open the public meeting up for public commentary. Is there any member of the community that wishes to speak on this? Good evening, Mr. Yasko.
Good evening,
Right ahead.
everyone. Steve Esco, 14 Endicott Street, District 5 Town Meeting member. I was just kind of curious, last year there were 2 1,000 tanks there.
Correct.
How is the setup for those 2 tanks regarding perimeter security?
In comparison to last year?
Yes.
So it would have been the same thing.
Exactly.
I mean, it's the same plan that we had in previous year, you know, in the previous year.
Which required fencing? Was it fencing?
Fencing
Barriers.
fencing and barriers were at the site, you know, at that point.
Okay, so we'd be following suit with these.
Yes,
6
Exactly.
tanks.
The same setup we
Yeah.
had today,
Yeah.
you'll have 3 of them.
Okay,
Just strategically, so they can heat the entire structure
Yep.
inside.
thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any, Mr. Plasko, do
Yeah,
you have a
the
question?
comments or concerns about safety and it being fenced in. We're fencing in and controlling the whole area. And
Correct.
that might be some concerns for unwanted people being on the property. But I guess the concern would be during the day, when there's trucks and cranes and everything else moving around, lifts and everything,
Yep.
of them perhaps backing into them.
So that's why we have crash protection. Normally what they do is they put up Jersey barriers around all of the equipment. Could be the tanks, will be the piping, and will be the heater. Everything is usually boxed in. I think if you take a look at the diagram that we have here, it kind of shows the temporary barriers or the crash
rectangle
protection
things on the
barriers
barriers.
that are all around it, yeah.
I think that's what people might have been concerned about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of actually the fire prevention. When we go down, we have to show them where the crash protection is, how the layout is gonna be, and if there are any changes to it, we have to obviously get their permission.
Thank you.
I mean, what we know is we can't do anything until we have permission from the fire department. It's gonna have to be built according to their specifications. And I'm sure that, you know, as they have been throughout the project, both the fire department and the building inspector, it will be there. to look at things
Oh,
and
yeah.
make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be.
100%. We still have to file permitting with the fire department, even though we get the license. They still have to come down and inspect our work.
Right.
And that also includes the plumbing inspector. He'll be there to inspect all the piping that goes from the tanks to the heaters.
Any other comments from a member of the community? Yes, sir.
Yes,
Could you just
my
give
name's Mark
us your
Barry.
name and address? and-
Mark Barry, I live at 1274 Washington Street. My concern was that I received a certified letter from you guys,
Yeah.
and I'm the only one in my neighborhood that did, that I could find. I knocked on everybody's doors and nobody else received one. I'm just concerned why that would be.
We had a list that we went by.
You're special.
They gave,
Well, I'm just saying, you know, notification, these people, they know nothing about this.
People right next door?
Yes, right on Washington Street, they know nothing about this, so they were concerned why they didn't get a certified letter as well.
Well, usually is a certain distance, they,
Is it 300?
300, I think in this case.
Yeah.
So if they're 305 feet, they weren't gonna get notified.
Well, I live right across from Mike's old house there,
Okay.
on Washington Street.
Yeah.
And people right next door to me
Okay.
did.
They're probably within the 300 feet then.
Is that right? Son of a gun.
I mean, the application does include the certified mail receipt. Yeah, I'm seeing, not that I go through them all, writing's very small, but I do see 1268, 1234
They're the-
Washington Street.
They're the property owners, not renters, correct?
Who is?
The people you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I see addresses on Allendale Parkway as well.
Yeah, which is quite further away from where I'm talking about too, so I just don't, and that was my concern, was the confusion with my neighbors, is why I didn't receive a certified letter. It actually was left and wasn't even signed for.
Yeah, I don't have an explanation for you, but
That's
it
okay.
does look, it's a pretty
That's-
extensive list of certified mailings that did go out.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
yeah.
Any other members of, Ms. Donahue, how are you?
Great, thank you. Good evening,
Donahue.
everybody. It's very nice to be here. Helen Donahue, 1027 Washington Street, Town Meeting Representative from District 6. I have a few questions, please. As a member of the public, would you please be kind enough to go over the highlights of the report from the fire department?
yeah, so I met with the fire department. We basically come up with a layout. I draw it out for them and provide them with this documentation which shows where the tanks are gonna go. We provide them with any information they want, such as tank information, valves that are on the tanks, anything that has to do with the propane side of it that they ask us or require, that's what we provide them with.
So they agreed with your plan?
Yes, they're the authority having jurisdiction, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. How far away from the existing school would these tanks be? How many feet?
Oh, I would say looking at the diagram, the original set we had this year, were probably the closest. Code NFP 5854 says that the tanks, 2,000 gallons, need to be 25 feet from any structure. So we're falling within the code. That's national code.
And do you have any knowledge of any previous accidents that have occurred on school sites?
I do not.
Thank you. And another question is that, are you doing that rather than put in the full gas line right away?
So yes, this is just for temporary service until they get everything wrapped up and they get the natural gas in. Which I'm not even sure if the school is actually going with natural.
There won't be no permanent
electrified.
tanks, it's gonna be electric.
It's
heat.
electric.
All electric heat.
Yeah.
So yes, so this is just, again, this is temporary for just, so they can do the construction between November and April, May, whenever they get completed.
Thank you. That's about it, but I do have a few other comments. The reason that the grass is green in Cadillac is that was the original part of the agreement with Carl, when Carl Johnson, when he built the place. That's the reason for all the green grass. It was a good idea because it was near a neighborhood, you know? but it's very nice to be here. Thank you.
Nice to see you, Ms. Donahue.
Thanks, Steve.
Are there any other members of the public that wish to comment on the proposal? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing. Do I have a second by Ms. Grove? And all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Unanimous? Thank you. You got the board's approval.
I noticed that this notice of butters list says 100 feet.
What's that?
100 feet.
100 feet?
So that's all that was notified, apparently.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jimmy, for coming in to inform us about this process.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hi.
Good night. Have a good evening.
Do we close the hearing and vote?
We did close the hearing, and we did take a vote. Did we
Okay,
take a-
thank you.
No, I'm going to make a motion to, do I have it, we closed the hearing, so now I'll entertain a motion on the proposal.
Motion to approve the proposal from Eastern as submitted.
Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Satt, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0. 5-0 on both motions, Christine. So with that, we are now at item 3.4. Mr. Slater, welcome. Long time no see.
Yeah,
The floor is yours.
Would you like to talk about utility pole, or just give an update first on the middle school?
Let's do the update on the school budget
Okay.
timeline and maybe
Okay.
recap on our site visit yesterday.
Will do, thank you. Again, thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the board, Mr. Mizuko. As Mr. Donnelly noted, we had a site visit last Monday of the middle school building committee, as well as representatives of the school committee. It was performed by W.T. Rich. It was a very extensive visit. You know, we saw all aspects of the building, all 3 sections of the building, went up 3 floors. Again, I'm an engineer. To me, it's really exciting to see that kind of stuff. You know, because you saw different things. Certain portions of the building were more advanced than others. And I think once you see part of the presentation I have, you're going to get a better idea of where they are in certain areas. But it was great. And again, it's going to be a great building. So if I could, let me give you a little bit of an update, a little bit of progress. I think you can see from the buildings that, you know, they're essentially, for the most part, not completely, but for a good part, closed in. A lot of window work has been done. If you see the picture on the right, that's the curtain wall, the south elevation. That's going to be where the media center is, and it's going to be fabulous once you see it. Just again, beautiful building. If you go to the next slide, again, just shows a little bit of the work that's being done inside the building. This is an Area C, which is when you're facing the building, it's a section furthest on the right. That's the first one that they've been working on. Installing windows, as well as doing a lot of work in the ceiling, you know, particularly with the utilities. Not all the areas are this far advanced, but you know, just a matter of time. Also in Area C, I think you can see they're starting to do the wall. Excuse me, starting to do the wall tile. Again, if you've been to the high school, you've noted that the wall tile there, 13-year-old building, looks like it was built yesterday, and we expect to see the same thing in the middle school. Next slide shows some additional progress. They're doing roofing on the 3rd floor of A area. That's the furthest area over. Get facing the building, that's on your left. That's going to be finished up relatively soon. I think you can also see in the other slide the masonry. Again, you know, very similar in many ways to the high school, and again, they're doing a great job. Again, good news, project is on schedule for completion. It's on schedule for June 6th of 2025. That should give plenty of time to get all the little kinks worked out, get the equipment and furniture in and installed, and people acclimated to the building, at which point they will begin, after the school year ends, they'll begin demolishing the old building. And there will be a new turf field where the old building is presently located. And again, just a lot of ongoing activities, just basic construction work, you know, mechanical work, interior wall work, a lot of work on the exterior wall sheathing, as well as masonry work. And, you know, one of the last pieces of concrete they're doing is the slab for the 5th and 6th grade kitchen. I think they just poured that, and it's taking time to cure right now, but things are going well. Next few slides show the budget. You know, first page essentially deals with the budget of the owner's project manager. The next slide is primarily the budget of the architect engineer, which as we know is AI3, same people who were responsible for the high school. And the last piece deals with the general, again, in general terms, the budget for the general contractor we have, W.T. Rich. And, you know, again, I'm pleased to say that the project not only is on budget, we're under budget. You know, it's tough to say how much because there's still, you know, work to do and who knows what's going to happen, but I expect at the end of the project we will be under budget. And, you know, we've got, and again, continual reimbursements from the MSBA. So with that, open to any questions.
Questions from the board? Mr. Saad.
I just want to have a great job. I just got a print from Chris Fuller maybe 2 weeks ago. And is there any way to save that gym and the cafeteria and use that cafeteria portion for a snack shack and move the field a little bit? It's a $30 million building.
Yeah, we looked at it. The thing is that, you know, the field, that's where the field is going to be, and that's where a lot of the parking is going to be also. And, you know, as well as the cost of providing, you know, heat and ventilation and whatever, it just, you know, it just couldn't be done. We looked at it, but it from an engineering standpoint, it just wasn't feasible.
From yesterday's tour, was pointed out by the contractor that they've actually they're doing site preparation for the location of the concession stand.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's the front field, football field gonna be? In the parking area in front of the school, the existing school, where the existing school is?
I mean,
half and half.
The turf field. The turf field will be essentially where the old building was located. You know, pretty close to the same. Not exactly, but, you know, close to that footprint.
Turf is nice. I said turf is nice.
Yeah. Yep.
Don't have to water it.
Yep. And it'll be a big help because, you know, that was a very highly used field and it was a grass field and it gets beat up. And, you know, this will be able to be used for a number of different sports.
So does the artificial. We already had to replace the high school.
No,
and they're pretty expensive.
In 10 years.
Dangerous, they're dirty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Slater, for all the work you're doing. Like Mr. Sad said, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, just maybe for the public at home that saw in the news that the town of Arlington, you know, that they had suffered. Unfortunate, and with a similar building project, they had been scammed out of almost $500,000. And we talked a little bit about that at our meeting and sort of the process with invoicing and all the eyes that get put on it. And I don't know if you wanted to speak to that, just to assure people that things are going well with our building. Yeah, I mean, you know, it isn't simply a matter of somebody sends an invoice to the town and the town, oh, okay, and pays it. Right. You know, things first go to, it's a group of people, but it first goes to our owner's project manager. You know, they will review all bills, you know, both from the architect as well as from
the contractor, review that the work has been done, the amount of money is being asked for is consistent with the amount of work being done. And they will, again, review everything and make a recommendation to the middle school building committee whether or not to approve the invoices or not. And it's a very detailed process that they have. They do, it's their job. One of the reasons we hire them as an owner's project manager to do that type of work for us.
Yeah, and I was reading more about this, and it was pretty elaborate in terms of, I think there were some town email addresses that had been compromised.
They hacked, yeah.
Months ago, and so one of the things was that, this vendor finally said, we haven't been paid in a while, what's going on? But the town had said, oh, we've been paying you. I appreciate you explaining that.
I think what we'll do is, after reading this, I think we're just gonna maybe go back and look again, is reinforce that what we're doing is what's necessary to protect the interests of the town.
Yeah. Mr. Rizzuto, have you heard anything more about this?
Not that much more, other than good control measures would have probably prevented it. It also happened recently, the town of Orange out in
I saw
Central
that
Mass.
too. That was like
Similar situation, in some ways much more significant because it's a much smaller town and a much smaller project. They're actually gonna likely potentially face layoffs because of the amount of money that was taken. We candidly here, now we've been fortunate for years, I don't wanna say it and then we're gonna get hit. It's going to happen, it happens in towns everywhere, it'll inevitably happen here at some point in time. We take as aggressive an approach as we can. We're very clear about we don't pay invoices by email. We have a process. We don't vary from that process without a verbal commitment. We don't change bank accounts without verbally confirming with a vendor for large payments. And the accounting staff know that they can come down to my office anytime and say, hey, this doesn't make sense. The treasurer's office does it. We're sort of checking on them. They're checking on us. We rely on the fact that this is not a massive organization with 6,000 accountants plugging away, that people can pick up a phone and call somebody and say, does this seem to make sense? Internally, we have some control measures that we do quietly, that we know that the staff will not get certain emails from me. I don't email anyone saying pay this bill or pay that. So a lot of it comes down to what your normal process is in creating an environment where the staff will poke up and say, hey, can you explain this invoice? Believe me, accounting will call me and ask me about coffee bought when I'm traveling, and were you really out of town? And it's like, did you want to see the picture of me?
It's just crazy how sophisticated these hacks are.
And they're getting worse. It used to be the classic sort of email scam that was, hey, can you send a wire to this bank account for this number? And those are fairly easy to catch. They're far more elaborate now, but good internal communication and face-to-face communication is still one of the ways that you can stop when something strange is happening.
And a lot of it, I think, as Tony noted, a lot of it is, good communication. It's also common sense. If you see something different, don't say, oh, okay, I'm gonna pay that. You double check, and you triple check to make sure that that's a valid vendor.
And to be clear, we're very big on pick up the phone and call somebody.
Sure.
Not just, that way in the event you do have a compromise your email system, it's not, hey, does this invoice look good? And somebody replies back, sure, the invoice looks good. Staff are told, pick up the phone and call somebody, walk into their office and see them and say, does this make sense?
And then,
Thanks, Sal.
many of the same techniques are the same ones that we've been looking after in the anti-scam task force for our seniors, for our vulnerable populations, for even for children now. So the techniques are all the same. They're all trying to get you to make a decision before you had a moment to really go, wait a minute. So just always give that extra moment of pause, kind of over-inspect things, and that's what's going to make a difference, is pausing, really considering, and like you say, having face-to-face, asking questions.
To Ms. Grove's point, one of the reasons you sometimes see unpaid bills or you see things closing out at the end of the year is staff have been clearly instructed, if you're not sure, don't pay the bill. I would much rather pay even a late fee 100 times a year to make sure we're not getting scammed. If you're not sure, don't pay it. If you don't understand the email, ignore it. If we really owe somebody money, we'll find a way to come after us and make sure that we're paying it. It's not that we don't want to be good about paying our bills, but we'd rather be safe than sorry.
And as we pointed out, I think yesterday's meeting, I mean, the committee itself, the project manager and the construction manager they work well together. But the committee itself, representation from general government is substantive. You're on the committee. Your procurement people are, public, our facilities folks are on it. So I think the process does have some really good checks and balances.
Again, I think, we may want to go back and sort of take another look to see, is there anything you can do to tighten things up even more? But, things have, knock on wood, been going pretty well so far.
Mr. Slater, I think you mentioned at the beginning, you wanted to maybe provide an update on the utility pole lines coming in from over the Little League and the trees adjacent to the Little League?
Well, this actually is, okay. There was a proposal before to put some poles adjacent to the parking lot where the buses are. They would also be very close to the Little League field. And there was a concern before about taking trees from the area of the Little League field. We sort of worked that out. But then there was the issue of whether we'd have to take some trees at the fence line, you know, where the buses are. Because in particular, you know, Norwood Light has, you know, certain standards, you know, how close a tree can be to one of their existing utility lines. It presented some issues for us. So we looked where the professional team went back and looked to see whether there are other options to that. So the long and the short of it is rather than having overhead poles either right through the middle of the parking lot or along the side of the site, we're going to go underground with the conduit. This is a building that's going to last 50 years. It makes perfect sense. It's not very expensive, but yeah, aesthetically, I mean, I think it adds a lot to the site.
Yes. And that was a consensus among the committee as well.
Yeah. The professional team is going to go back and look at a couple of different options for doing that, but I think the feedback from the committee was that this is the way to go.
Any final questions, comments from the board? Mr. Sag.
Alan, great job. What's the chance of you coming on Norwood Hospital and finishing that building?
We said that yesterday.
If somebody said, you know, thank you for the kind words, but I'm not a miracle worker.
All right.
Did you want to talk at all about the Verizon utility pole while I'm here?
Yes, yes, sure.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
No, just that I know there was another topic, and, you know, Verizon has to set another utility pole in the north driveway. That's, again, facing the building. That's the driveway on your right.
Closest to the tennis courts.
Closest to the tennis courts. They need that so they could put low voltage wires into the building. Now, Verizon owns the poles. Now, they need an easement to do that on town property. However, you know, they need town meeting approval for that. We missed town meeting in the spring. So what they would like is they're requesting what's referred to as a non-exclusive land license, so they can get the pole set and keep the project on schedule. You know, because the utility work in that area is going to be continuing during the summer. And then they would request town meeting approval in the fall.
Okay. Any questions about that? Yes, Mr. Sad.
Just a question, is this along where the tennis court's going in, that new pole that's on the main road that we just put up? I see a new light pole was put up recently, 2 or 3 weeks ago?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. This is a Verizon pole, not a light pole.
So
This will be a separate Verizon pole.
So it'll be a nice, pretty metal type pole?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
No.
that's what I'm getting at. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Is this associated with the item that we had earlier, 4.1?
Correct, yeah.
Yes. Item 4.1, we did. Thank you, Mr. Slater.
You did that? Okay, all right.
We've been there and did that.
Okay.
But thank you
Easy.
for the explanation. Mr. Ling, any questions, anyone? Well, Mr. Slater, thank you very much for coming in and
Thank you.
updating us on the project.
Appreciate it. Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
for organizing the tour yesterday. It was it's great to get inside the building and see it coming along.
Always is, and, you know, if the selectmen would like to, you know, have a, you know, tour, we'll see what we can do.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
All right, returning to our agenda. I believe we left off at 4.13. This is cemetery deeds for signatures of the board. Do I have a motion?
Seconded.
Motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0. And we have a late agenda item. This is item 4.14, a Disabled Veterans Park request. Heritage Baptist Church submitting a request to use the Disabled Veterans Park for a church picnic / cookout for outdoor evening service on Sunday, June 30th, 2024, from 5 p.m. till 7 p.m. with an estimated attendance of 50 to 125 guests. Any discussion, any questions from the board?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Sad makes the motion.
Second.
Mr. Lane seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0. Great. That brings us to memoranda. 5.1 through 5.4.
Motion to file.
Second.
Motion to file, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0. And now that brings us to manager's update. Mr. Mizuko.
Two items, Mr. Chairman. Just the first one, on a bit of a sad note, the board may know Trish Monahan passed away recently, lifelong Norwood resident, and she was an employee at the Council on Aging for many years. She was a voracious advocate for our seniors in particular, their access to health care, and spent a lot of time and energy. She retired from Verizon and then came and worked for us, and then sort of retired from us and continued that work. We just interviewed her a few months ago to be on the COA board, so I know our friends at the COA are going to be missing her quite a bit, and we're certainly going to be missing her. She was also a voracious watcher of your meetings, and it was not uncommon to receive a call or a text or an email the next morning about some item that was perhaps missed, or an opinion on what was said about a certain item. Particularly, I remember once she chastised former Chairman Maloney on how he pronounced somebody's name, and he seemed to get a kick out of it, and that was quite a biting email from Trish. So she, in true Norwood fashion, had no problem sharing her opinion, but cared deeply for anyone she knew, but in particular the seniors in this town. So we're going to miss her, and we're going to miss her at the senior center. On a less sad but boring note, we have the town meeting schedule for fiscal '25. The staff have prepared this. So we have confirmed these dates with the moderator, the town clerk, finance director, town council, my office. So everyone that needs to be at these meetings, except the selectmen, of course, who are critical, are available. We're not going to ask you to do anything tonight. However, what we'd like you to do is look through it. Let us know if you have any questions, if the dates generally look good, because what we'd like to do, we've been getting a little better at this each year, is if you approve it at your next meeting, right around the first week of July, we would get it out to all the different boards and committees. Staff would all be aware, so everyone's aware of their timelines and when their meetings are, when materials need to be in. We'll get it posted on the website. Maybe we even send it to town meeting members ahead of time saying, just so you know, this is when we are likely to be meeting in fiscal '25. Certainly, we could call meetings as needed. The only slight change from previous years is it used to be an October town meeting, then it became a November town meeting, which generally works a little bit better for us. That will be in October. The first 2 weeks of November, having both an election and when Veterans Day is falling, has made the first couple of weeks of November a little bit difficult, and then we're pushing it a little bit too close to Thanksgiving on the other side. That being said, we feel we can make the October, I think it's the 28th date, work if we know at the end of this month that this is when we want to go for.
Great. For information, or any initial thoughts from the board, or?
Yeah, the only comment I would make is that this is meant, I believe, to be used as a basic planning and forecasting, but town meeting can be called at any time for any reason if we find
Absolutely.
such is necessary, not
Mhm.
restricted to this document.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Plasko. Any comments? So this is for our information, and when do we, when do you need to hear back from us in terms of solidifying the, particularly the October town meeting schedule?
What would be ideal is the end of June. We can wait until your July meeting, but if anyone has any questions over the next 2 weeks, what we'd like is sort of the board to approve the calendar as is, as Mr. Plasko said, understanding things are going to change. If we need to change a date, we'll bring it back, but this lets us let staff know. It lets us to book dates, we book rooms, we book presentation rooms, and everyone knows well ahead of time when materials are expected for each of the anticipated town meetings. As Mr. Plasko said, things could come up, we can make changes at any time, but we know generally we bring our capital plan forward in October. We've been looking to do land use in March, and then our annual is actually set by by charter, we just want to make sure that, or by bylaw, I should say, we just want to make sure that the earlier everyone knows, the more advantageous it is, particularly booking travel and vacations and rooms.
Okay, so for the board, we will, with your consent, we'll make sure that this is on the agenda for our June 25th meeting for final review and approval, particularly of the October town meeting. All right, thank you, Mr. Mizuko. Anything else?
No, sir.
Mr. Sad.
Few things, Mr. Chairman. I had the pleasure of being at a presentation at the North Walpole Fishing Game from President Dan Chagru and Mike Needham, and they had a guest speaker there from D-Day, and a gentleman from, he was 99 years old, from Canton, Howard Hansen. Unbelievable presentation. I want to thank them for the time and effort they put on that. I want to thank Coach Igo and the team for a great baseball season. They made it to the quarterfinals. It was spectacular. And also Mike Lodge and his team. The girls made it to the first round, first time in a long time in the playoffs. So congratulations to them and all the teams that finished strong. Also, I'm not sure if Mr. Manager, we had an incident up on 1921 West Street where somebody was needed the handicap parking, but now they don't need the handicap parking up there anymore. So they said it comes under the jurisdiction of the selectmen.
It does. Any changes for traffic regulations, we send to our traffic advisory committee, which makes a recommendation to this board.
All right, if you could look into that.
We'll have them look at 1921 West Street.
Yeah, there's some handicap parking. This person is deceased. 1249 Washington Street, there's a dead tree there. The DPW can rip it out and put a new one in. And the other thing was, just for discussion for the board, the South Norwood Committee brought up the bridges. We have a few of them coming into South Norwood. Is maybe like in Westwood, they have a light underneath the bridge, because we have a lot of foot traffic coming through Dean Street. And
Pedestrian light?
yeah, some type of lighting under the bridges.
We can look into that.
Yep. And then Alex Duchesne, he's going to the U.S. Naval Academy from Norwood High. I just want to shout out and congratulate him. Hopefully I pronounced the name right, but another Norwood High School graduate making it great for Norwood. Car show. We had a car show in Norwood last week, and I know the manager and the chief were on top of it. You were away, but it was kind of a crazy situation. My phone was ringing off the hook, and I went up there, and it was kind of a crazy situation, but we're going to send a letter to the residents. We're going to send a letter to the establishment, make sure they don't have a car show anymore unless we know about it. And it was quite busy. We have a retirement for a teacher at the Balch School, Mrs. Karapitas, and 28 years my kids had her, and her final day is Friday at the Balch School, so congratulations, enjoy retirement. And one more thing, I think the situation with the Norwood Hospital, and maybe the board can write another letter to, as chairman, the new chairman, to Governor Haley, Rush, and Rogers, and maybe bring somebody in here to explain to the residents of Norwood, Walpole, Canton, Dedham, what's happening with Norwood. There's a lot of uncertainties of what's going to happen with the Norwood building if it goes bankrupt. And we want it to be a hospital, so maybe see if we can invite them in or do something to get them in here to say,
I don't
hey.
think it has anything to do with any of those individuals any longer.
Well, it does a little bit because the
landlord has basically announced that they've taken back the property. Stewart has nothing operating out of there, and the landlord is completing the building. Unfortunately, there's only a couple of workers a day seem to be on there, but they're closing up the building while they try to find someone to operate it. It's separate from everything else you're reading about all the other Stewart operations.
No, I know, but I talked to John Rogers, and he had mentioned there's $65 million to maybe more. They got to find out how much they gave Stewart from the state, and because they hopefully have some type of mechanism in their paperwork when they give a check to somebody that says for the hospital use. That money should be used for a hospital use, but they're not helping the rep and the senator, Governor Haley, on the situation. They're trying to get her to make a decision of where that was given and why for the remodeling of the hospital, and now it's not being remodeled.
As I recall, wasn't that related to, there was state intervention because at the time, due to the
Insurance.
Yeah, exactly, because they were deliberating about the rain versus, ground flooding essentially, and rather than wait for that to play out, the state stepped in and intervened.
So John and Rush are trying to do something, but they're being held up at the top level. So maybe a letter to push through and say, hey, you know, what's going on here? We need to know, is it's costing us a lot of money, every town around this area, for the ambulance service, and we don't want that to be an apartment complex. We want it to be a hospital.
I'll hear from I'll have a comment, but anyone else on that? You know, I don't, we did write the governor before, we haven't got a response, not that we expected one, but certainly, personally, I wouldn't be opposed to follow up on that letter, and perhaps, I'll pause and you have a thought.
I'm going to be down at the State House very soon to engage with the reps' offices for a different reason. And if we wanted, I could try while I'm already in the building to give a little FaceTime, essentially.
That'd be great. Yeah, yeah. Because I also think that perhaps a follow-up letter is worth the effort, and maybe what we also can do if we do approach the governor's office and the Department of Public Health with a more specific request for status update on an operator for Norwood Hospital, that we also share that letter with our, you know, we're not the only community that is impacted by the lack of the hospital. So we know the hospital serves Foxborough, it serves Walpole, it serves Westwood, it serves Sharon. Maybe there's an opportunity to you know, send whatever letter we send to the governor, also make an effort to get it out to the boards, the select boards of those towns, with a suggestion that perhaps they want to follow suit as well.
Great idea.
They're impacted as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Anything else, Mr. Sad?
Nope.
Mr. Lane?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very quickly want to say congratulations to all the teachers, administrators, and staff at all of our public schools. By the time we meet next, school will have ended for those individuals, and just want to give them credit for the work they do, and hopefully everyone finishes the year strong and has a good summer. And I think that's it.
Mr. Plasko?
Well, we talked construction tonight, we talked about the middle school, we touched on the hospital. I'd like an update on what's going on with the armory, excuse me, the recreation department. It's been scaffolded and screened, and maybe there's somebody working, but when I drive by, I've yet to see a body, and it's been quite a while. What the heck's going on?
I drove by today and there were people working on it. They're
There were,
getting to the end of
finally.
they're getting to the end of the process. I mean, I don't doubt you, Mr. Plasko. It's shielded screening. It's you gotta really be up there to actually see somebody behind the black screen and they're working, but they've been working on it for quite a while. It's a $600,000
I guess
so
that's part of
project.
my question, quite a while. What are they doing? What's,
Repairing a lot of the brick and lintel work and eliminating some of the moisture intrusion. It was a capital project approved a couple of years ago.
just the front facade and the side,
Correct.
and it's taken that long?
So that's the original part of the building. The whole building's original, but that's original stone to it, and it was quite a lot of work needed to be done.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Lane, thank you for reaching out for the thank you to the schools. That was a very nice thing to do. Ms. Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Short and sweet from me tonight. I just want to mention I had the pleasure of attending the Pride festivities on the Common. Good turnout. It's great to see everybody. So very, very awesome event. And then I'm hoping to see everybody at Juneteenth this weekend. I have foolishly not pulled up the precise start time.
12:30.
There we go. I knew someone would have it. But really looking forward to that event as well. It's been very nice to see some of our community events that are, we've talked about our great, 4th of July event. Some of these events are more in their infancy, where they've only been running for a couple of years. But at the rate they're going, they're going to become, just as great as our 4th in terms of something for the community to get together and really celebrate and keep Norwood being special. So
Exactly.
that's all from me tonight.
Thank you for highlighting that. Mr. Lane, the reason I was mentioning your thank you is that yesterday, Mr. Lee Leach, hosted probably around 50 fifth graders from the Callahan, and one group went to the Carillon, and the other group came in here where they heard a very boring rendition of the role of selectmen in the history of Norwood from Mr. Donnelly, and the only time I really got their attention when I told them that on our agenda this evening was a proposal to extend the end of the school day to July the 31st. Then there was a reaction. It was very funny.
I
I came back on Friday previously, and Mr. Mizuko and Mr. Rosen were giving a tour to the third grade classes.
Yeah.
And my niece was here, and she said, "Someone else was sitting in your seat." That's okay.
That's great.
Thank you for
It
doing
was
that,
a lot of
Tony.
fun.
It is
a lot of fun.
They look like they're having fun.
They were great. They had a great day. Probably the Caroline bells were a little more exciting than hearing from the chair of the select board, but be that as it may. So I have some quick updates. So on the master plan, the steering committee we had appointed a group of several of the members. I'm one of the designated members to be on a committee to determine the recommendation for a consultant. That's gone out to bid. We narrowed the list of proposals down to 2, and we conducted consultant interviews last week. And this week, I believe on Thursday, we are having a meeting of the subcommittee to hopefully finalize the recommendation for a master plan consultant. So the project, once we identify a consultant, we're really going to be able to put forward timelines and the processes necessary to initiate a town-wide master plan. The concert program. So next we have the concert committee coming in next week, but I believe you will be seeing the program around town soon, but we'll have the concert committee in on our next meeting to talk a little bit about the concerts coming up for the Carillon, for the Wednesday night Summerfest concerts, and as well as the Sunday evening concerts on the Common. All 3 groups, in total we have about 24 concerts to put forward in the summer as per our tradition. Mr. Plasko has advised me regarding the need for us to work with our town council and general manager regarding an agreement, a host agreement that Norwood has with the Middlesex Integration Medicine, which currently is now in receivership. So that does have implications for us, and Mr. Plasko has worked on that original host agreement, and I'm going to ask him to represent us with Mr. Mizuko and Mr. DeLuca regarding determining what the impact to Norwood based on that change in ownership of Middlesex Integrated Medicine. We want to thank the members of the fire department and other members of the community as well as general government who agreed to speak with a reporter from WBUR-FM. I think about 2 weeks ago, WBUR published on their radio station a pretty thorough report. I think it was several minutes long, which is pretty good by radio standards. I thought the fire department representatives really did a nice job describing the kind of impact that, from an emergency response standpoint and certainly from a costing standpoint, the impact that the loss of the hospital has been to Norwood. Any publicity that we can get regarding our situation is beneficial, and I'm glad that WBUR took the time and effort to reach out to us to have that report, which you can still find. It's been a couple of weeks, but if you do search on Google for WBUR Norwood Hospital, you will be able to pick up the report. It's online. That is all of the things I have. So at this point, we're not adjourning, but we do have on our next agenda item an executive session. So we're going to deal with the executive session, and we will return to public session at the end of our executive session. However, that will be only for the purpose of adjournment. So at this point, we will go into executive session. I'll read the notice for executive session and then ask for a motion to go into executive session. Executive session, purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. And we're dealing with collective bargaining. And we do have listed purpose 6. Is there a purpose 6 discussion this evening, Mr.?
There's not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we're only going into executive session for purpose 3. So with that, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
And seconded by Ms. Grow. This requires a voice, individual roll call. So on the motion to go into executive session, Mr. Sad, Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. Plasko?
Yes.
Ms. Grow?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. So we will now go into executive session. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening.